of the crowds. So they come and attack him in the presence of people. This is a public dispute that's about to happen. This is no different than trolls who creep up on people's pages looking for an audience in the comments. You don't really have anything of value to add to the conversation. You just want to stick in your ignorance to make it palpable for everybody else in the comments to think that you're a theologian, right? So here they come acting like theologians in the front of the crowds, and the scripture says they test him by asking him a question. This is important because we know that their motives are not pure. They are trying to trap the Lord in a theological debate. This is why it's very important for us and who are followers of Christ to have, watch this word, discernment. When we are talking to people, when we are in conversations on rooms, because everybody talking to you does not have good intentions.
And on that note, we're here. We are back with another episode of She Speaks. And okay, before we get into it, I just want to let y'all know about the setup, because y'all are like, girl, where are you at? So if you watch the vlogs and you're keeping up with everything, then you can tell like I'm downstairs in the basement. My little podcast area still is not finalized, but that's okay. That's okay. Hopefully by the next episode, which Jeremy should be a special guest on that episode. This is our birthday weeks. Tomorrow's my birthday and Monday was his birthday. So we've just been really, really busy. And he actually ended up having 2 job projects to do today. So I thought he was going to be able to get up early and finish off my little area, but he ended up having to go to work. But that's okay. That's okay, because we're not here for the aesthetics. We're not here for the setting and the setup. All of that is all well and real nice and looks good. But we're here for the message that I want to share with you guys today. So of course, per usual, I just want to let y'all know that I am not here to, one, offend, attack, or condemn anyone who is listening to this She Speaks episode. This is simply a form of me sharing my truth, sharing my testimony within my journey and my walk with Christ. Every single one of these episodes has an underlying tone of Christ, because he has showed up and showed out in my life in ways that I could never imagine. And I have to do my due diligence to pour that back into the world. If I have a platform of people who've been watching me and solely invested for this milestone or that milestone and this high moment and this low moment, I have to be willing to make sure that I have to remember that the glory goes to God. Ultimately speaking, the glory goes to God. I've been doing YouTube for, like I said, 10 years, y'all. 10 long years. I have been giving pieces of me, the good, the bad, and the ugly with you guys. And I'm at a point now where, regardless of what stage of my life I'm in, I have to make sure that the presence of the Lord is heard. I want to make sure that it's understood. And I want people to kind of get into a little bit more of an understanding of a more Christian-based mature mentality. Not just a mature mentality, but how I think when it comes to God. Because to be honest, you guys, God has led me and has been leading me, so I thought, in so many different avenues of my life. But in this chapter specifically, this chapter of having this platform, being able to touch the lives of people all over. When I went live last weekend, people were saying hey to me from all over, y'all. I can't remember. I think somebody said they was in Germany. Somebody else said they were in one of the islands. All over the world, people are tuning in to watch my life. Woo! Do y'all not understand that? All over the world. And no, I don't have millions of views. I don't have hundreds of thousands of views. But just to know the impact that I make, my voice, me as one person, can touch the lives of people out of the country in an instant. That comes with a lot of responsibility. So when I get on my platform and I speak about certain things, it's not because I feel like I'm on a high horse. It's not because I feel like I'm holier than thou and I'm just this righteous queen and I just want to, you know, come on here and just tell y'all why y'all shit stank and mine doesn't anymore. I kind of really want to, in a way, air out my own shit so that you guys can really understand the work of God and what he could do for you as well if you at least surrender yourself to him. And I had to pray about this one, y'all. The first conversation came, I don't want to say as easy. I think it came naturally for me to speak on because I had almost 10 years to marinate on that chapter of my life, the chapter of me dating women. If you didn't watch the episode, please go back. If you've never seen anything about me and this is your first time tuning in, yes. My current husband is the first guy that I have been in a relationship with as an adult. I didn't lose my virginity until I was 23 years old. And prior to dating women, the last time I actually dated a man was when I was 14 years old. I know I spoke about in that journey sex demons visiting me, and what I didn't know at the time was sex demons. I thought it was just God giving me a vision like, I need you to be with a man, so I'm gonna let you see this in your dreams. You think something is wrong with your lady parts and you can't figure out for the life of you what's going on. I'm about to put it in your dreams. You know, sometimes we wake up and we see the things that we think we want to see, because I had been crying out for so long. I have been, you know, it's so funny. Let me tell y'all this. When me and the last girl that I dated, we went through therapy. And when we first got to that therapist, she asked us a lot of questions to get to know us personally. And at the end of that conversation, she told us, one of you guys does not want to be in this relationship. So we're both looking like, who, based off what we're saying, like who? Because neither one of us sat there and was like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. We're just talking about our grievances in the relationship and why we thought like we were bumping heads so much. And she said, one of you guys genuinely does not want to be in this relationship. So she said, I'm not going to tell you which one of you it is. If you both want to move forward with couples therapy, let's do it. If y'all both are 100% committed, let's do it. She set some ground rules, and that was how it went. We went through the therapy. And I'll never forget, one of the ground rules was about space. It was about understanding one's own boundaries. And when someone sets boundaries with you, it's important to respect those boundaries. And at that point, both of us had boundary issues. She couldn't respect some of my boundaries. I couldn't respect some of hers. I'm big with communication. Like, I am an overly communicator. I'm going to sit down. Let's talk about this right now. Let's get into the meat and the potatoes. I'm not about to sit here and go in my room and catch a fit and go silent and block you. None of that. Let's talk about it. She not so much. And I remember one of the rules that she set was respecting those boundaries. And if it comes to a point where there's so much tension and so much friction between the two of you, and one of you all says or sets a boundary, the other person has to respect it. And a couple of weeks into our therapy, shit was still going crazy. Like, it was going crazy, of course. And my ex called me, and she was, I don't remember the conversation, but I do remember her enforcing a boundary of, don't pull up, don't call me, don't text me. As a matter of fact, like, this is like, I really think this should be over. I think this should be the end of it. My boundary was, if one of us for any reason decided we did not show up to therapy and missed a session, I was 100% out. And one thing about me is I stand on business. Like, I'm a fighter, I'm a lover by nature, but I stand on business. So if I say something and you really push me and take me there, I'm standing on business. When it's the end for me, it's the end. And all you can do is reminisce. And she stood on her boundary. I respected it. I didn't call. I didn't blow her up. I just, what it was. And I went to therapy and she wasn't there. She wasn't there. And when I sat down with the therapist, y'all should have had some tissue for this session. Let me get it together. When I sat down with the therapist, I'm crying. I'm crying hysterically. Like, oh my gosh, like this, that, and the third, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, remember those boundaries we talked about? And I was like, yeah. Like, and she said, I want to tell you something, Keesha. Because she asked me, did I still want to move forward with that session for today? And I said, absolutely. So I'm telling her about everything. I won't talk about everything because, like I said, I don't want to disrespect that person who was a part of that relationship. But I'm telling her some internal feelings, not just about the person itself, but about the relationship and some things I was feeling, similar to the sex demons visiting me and just some of the intimate things. And she said, remember on day one when I told you guys that one of you guys did not want to be in this relationship? And through tears, I'm like, yeah. And she was like, no, okay, hold on. Let me tell y'all. Sorry, I'm pregnant and my brain is, it be scattered sometimes. I want to make sure I tell this story and paint this picture the way it needs to, because my message is so much bigger and I don't want to miss anything. Prior to me going to therapy, I called my sister crying about the boundary that my ex had enforced. And I'm crying to her and I'm like, hey, we have a therapy session. I don't think she's going to show up, so I'm not going to go. And she said, no, that's your cop-out. That's your cop-out. You're going to still go to that therapy session, regardless if he shows up or not. You remember your boundary, because I was so afraid of failure. In my life, like, I've always worked so hard with everything, like overachiever in every aspect of my life. And I was so afraid of failing, even if I knew this is not making me happy. This is not serving me in any capacity. I just still felt like I didn't want to fail. Like, what do I look like? Until years later, I start realizing from expanding and understanding and have an understanding of myself and an understanding of my pursuit of life, that this world is just temporary. The ultimate failure is for me not to live my life and serve God. That's the ultimate failure. I'm worried about failing at this and failing at that and failing at a test and failing at cheer and failing at a relationship and all these different things of the world, that I never put my life in perspective to realize the ultimate goal was to succeed at not only being a believer, but truly living my life like that. So anyways, my sister, after telling me, like, you got to go to the session, I end up going to the session. Now we get to the session. And she said, remember when I told you it was one person who did not want to be a part of this relationship? Through tears, I'm like, I know you about to say my ex name. I know you about to say I knew she was checked out this relationship, all the stuff you saying she was doing, this, that, and the third. And y'all, she looked me in my eyes and said, you don't want to be here. Free yourself. And I'm like, what? Like, what are you talking about? I showed up to therapy. Like, what do you mean? I'm present. I'm here. What do you mean? She said, Keesha, free yourself. If you just needed to hear the permission, I'm giving it to you now to free yourself. She said, I've sat back and I've really listened to you, but I don't think you've listened to your own self. Those voices, anything that has led you to a different path, you shut down and you continue to hurt yourself. You're not happy in any capacity. She said that young lady wants a relationship with a woman, regardless if it's with you or not. You, quite frankly, are not happy dating women. Why are you torturing yourself? You're literally torturing yourself. Like, I couldn't believe my eyes, y'all. I was like, so you mean to tell me the person who showed up and did this and blah, 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 all these different things is the one you're going to say is a quitter? It isn't a fighter? Like, isn't strong in a sense? And she told me, she said, I want you to truly pray when you leave my office. I want you to truly pray and ask God, can he please open your heart up to what he really wants for you? A different type of life for you. Just please pray. And regardless if you decide to go back and give her a chance, remember from the beginning, we said boundaries. This was your boundary regardless. But ultimately in life, you deserve happiness. You deserve not a piece of happiness, not a facade of happiness. You truly deserve happiness. And you're not happy. I don't know why it is so hard for you. And of course, at that point, because couples therapy is different from individual therapy. So at this point, I kind of was opening up about some things I had experienced and this and some of that. And it started making sense for her. But I left that office. And if you follow me on my social media, you remember, this is so crazy. If you follow me on my social media, you remember there was a point of time where I never drove on a highway. Never drove on a highway. I took the back street everywhere. If it took me an extra 30 minutes, 40 minutes, I was taking the freaking back streets. I was terrified. I had panic attacks. It was crazy. I just could not get on the highway. And I had been begging my ex at the time to practice with me driving on the highway. And I remember one of the times she finally did, and it was late night at night, because I said, let's do it at night when no one's around, blah, blah, blah. Let's drive on a highway. And I said, this is the highway that I feel like is going to lead me somewhere, because I've ridden on the highway all my life. I'm born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm like, I've ridden on this highway. I know this highway. I know every exit, where it leads you to. Every single thing about this highway is 285, y'all. So I'm like, I know 285. I know 285. So I can get on this highway. And I feel like this is going to be what allows me to like break free from the panic attacks that I was feeling, and feeling like I just could not overcome them to drive on a highway. She kept telling me that night, you sound crazy. Like, what do you mean? It's no different. Like, yeah, this highway is this, but it's no different from I-75 or all these other things, just more lanes. Like, it's all in your head. You just got to get over it, blah, blah, blah. And I said, no, I feel like this is the highway that I'm finally going to be able to break free. So we only went up a few exits, got some McDonald's, and came right back to her exit. And I leave counseling, and I had a modeling casting call for my hair company. And tears and everything else, I'm like, I still got to show up and do my job. Y'all, this is crazy. And I should put up across the screen the pictures so I can kind of put in perspective of what photo shoot it was. But anyways, I remember going to the highway, and I told myself I was going to Lenox Mall. And Lenox Mall, I would have had to take I-75 to get onto the bigger lane highway. And 285 leads me to Cumberland Mall. And I knew the stores that I needed to go to was on I-75. But I remember getting and approaching the highway, leaving the session, and asking God, please, God, I'm just talking about something completely different. And all of a sudden, God says, get on 285. And I'm like, 285? I'm like, maybe there's an accident. Looking at the GPS, there was nothing going on. But God says, get on 285. Go to the other mall. And I'm like, why would I be going to this other mall, God, when I know I need the stuff that's at Lenox Mall? But God says get on 285. So I get on 285. Driving 285, I feel safe. I feel secure. I'm crying. I'm listening to some music to calm me down. I get to the mall. Typically, I park at a certain place, which is near the food court when I go to this mall. And, well, not me park, but when I'm with people. And God said he wanted me to park in a different part, which I've never parked in that area before. And I'm like, okay, or a voice. we just listen. So I park in this other side. Literally, I'm looking like, I don't know what, like no makeup, leggings, t-shirt, eyes bloodshot red. And I'm just like, okay, now what store is in here that I could possibly find, blah, blah, blah. But maybe God was just, I'm thinking like God was just really preparing me, because he felt like I was so afraid to do I-75. He just wanted to show me like, you can get through this, you can get through anything. So anyways, I get into the mall, and long story short, as soon as I left that therapy session, the same day, I was led to that mall, and I ran into the very first guy that approached me and asked for my number. And I remember calling my sister, and I was like, hey, this guy, he's attractive, he's asking for my number. I don't know why, I look crazy as crap. And she was like, go for it, you're single, like what are you talking about? And I'm just like, wow, I just got out of this relationship. I felt like layers had been shed from me, years of pain, anguish, and all of that. And I finally felt okay. And of course I exchanged my number. And I won't even go into that because it was kind of short-lived anyways. But what I will say is I felt like at that time I was being led to men, the idea of men, because I had never been so happy to, you know, just go out or do this or do that, and just, you know, we were running errands and doing this and doing that and all those different things after I felt like I was in such a bondage. Like I felt like I was so ashamed of myself and I couldn't even utter those words to say it. I would look at myself in the mirror and know that's what I felt, but I couldn't utter those words and face that harsh reality. And I felt like for once in my life, after all these years of enduring all of that pain and feeling like it was a facade for me, or, you know, it wasn't my true self, I finally felt like, oh my gosh, this is where I was supposed to be this whole time, like with a guy. And like I said, that was short-lived. He went off to the military, and shortly after, and his point of my story was extremely important because his family was extremely involved with church. And to say goodbye, I was invited to the church send-off, and I went. And he wasn't really at that time cared about that church in particular, but I started going to that church, and I at the time felt like, oh my gosh, like now I'm back in church, I'm tithing, like wasn't reading my Bible or anything like that. I wasn't necessarily watching sermons because I was going to church actively every week. So I felt like, okay, I finally have found my place. These different things have been going through. But have you ever felt the conviction of God? And it's so strong over your life that you have no choice but to stop and be still. Shortly after that time of my life, I dated a few guys. Never got anywhere, never anything serious, just casual dating. And then I was reunited with Journie, who is today my husband. And we already had knew each other from high school, so I felt like this is just a long lost friend that I'm just rekindling friend bonds and vibes and all those different things. And no one really knew how I felt like I was in an escaped world by being with him. There was a level of understanding that had never been given to me by anybody else that man was able to do from such an early point on. And I'm talking about making me feel heard, making me feel loved, seen. And I felt like, not that he was filling a void, because I was at a great place internally when we started talking. I felt like this is the best place I had been in since a child. I had started working out in the gym constantly, finally get into the body that I knew was always in me, because prior to that I was so stressed out I could not even gain weight to save my life. And our kinetic chemistry was beyond my wildest imagination. Whew. And I remember after getting baptized the first time is when we had sex. And at the time, I didn't think of it in a sinful way. I didn't realize the Pandora box that I was opening and opening myself up to or us opening our relationship up to, because everyone is doing it. All I thought was, I waited until I was 23. And I've endured, and I've this, and I've that, and God was sending me signs and signals that I'm supposed to be with a man. And then God leads me to a man to show me, like, yes, I need you to be with a man. This is what I want for you. And God was calling me closer, not to just be with a man. And at that time, I didn't really understand that. All I knew was I was a good person with good intentions. And I'm in this relationship with this great guy. And we're having sex. And we have all the feels. And we're traveling. And he's my best friend. And I'm his best friend. He's sharing things with me that he's never opened up with anybody about. There's levels to our love and levels to our life that surpass all of our past hurts, all of our past pains. And this is something that we felt like, once again, God brought us together. A lot of people don't know, when me and Jeremy like rekindled and we kind of went down memory lane, both of us transferred to that high school the same year. Neither one of us was on for that high school. I was at Frederick Douglass High School. He was at Thurl High School. He transferred, and he was actually supposed to be going to a whole nother high school, but something happened with basketball, and at the last second he ended up getting pulled out and having to go to Westlake. I was at Frederick Douglass. I told you guys I got kicked off the cheerleading team. All those things were happening to me. I said, I'm leaving. I'm getting out this county completely. I had never heard of Westlake in my entire life. Never heard of Westlake. And my ex at the time told me, hey, you're going to go to Westlake. And I said, what? I've never even heard of Westlake. I'm thinking this school, or I'm thinking that school, along those lines. And she was like, no, you're going to go to Westlake. Who would have thought she was setting me up for my future husband? Who would have thought that she was trying to protect me at that time from being around anyone familiar to me, anyone that made me feel safe and comfortable, to be able to realize I'm in a very toxic relationship and nurture me and pour into me and allow me to leave it. I went to a whole new school with completely different people who did not grow up around me, did not grow up in any of the conditions. It was a few people I recognized, but I'm in a very unfamiliar territory. Completely unfamiliar. If you're from Atlanta, then you know there's a vast difference between Frederick Douglass High School and Westlake High School. Complete difference. And my ex at the time was the one who told me, this is the school you're going to go to. I have people at that school who are going to watch you, which was a lie. And yeah, this is where you're going to go. Who would have thought that she was setting me up for the man that I was going to marry? I would have never thought. But yeah, that's how I ended up at Westlake, because someone forced me to go there. And of course, I have no regrets. But God be working, and he be moving in your life in different capacities in different areas. And sometimes it does not make any kind of sense at that time. But me and Jeremy had no interest in each other at that time. I thought he was attractive. He thought I was attractive, but he had a girlfriend. Hell, I had a girlfriend. So he was captain of the basketball team. I was captain of the cheerleading team. So we bonded in that regard. Had classes together. I was very cool with his twin. But as far as romantic, we never tried it. Like, I was very committed, so that was never going to, like, guys always tried to flirt with me and be like, I'm going to be the one that's going to get you back, or blah, 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 blah. But I never, ever wavered. And when we reconnected, of course, we're rekindling, thinking about, like, how we even got to those schools. Because it was literally by the skin of his teeth that he got there, and it was by the skin of my teeth that I got there. And then we start talking about where we grew up. And who would have thought that we lived on the same street for years? I lived at the second house and he lived at the top house. And we never even crossed paths. My parents didn't let me go up the hill. I couldn't be like everybody else. I had to stay in my yard when I did go outside. But we lived in that same area. We had so many shared commonalities. So we knew a lot of the same people, and it was just so many different things that I felt like I was living again. I felt like if I had to endure all of these things to get where I'm at now, to finally meet this guy that I am so head over heels with, and makes me realize that the things that I had ever asked for or wanted in a relationship were not chores, were not going out of the way. These things came natural. I never even had to talk to him about things that I wanted per se at that time of our relationship. In the early stages, it was automatically done. If I came to him with a problem, he was helping me figure out a solution. If he came to me with stuff, I was opening his eyes up to different ways to deal with different things. Although we both grew up in certain similar areas, we both had different walks of life. So I was able to talk to him and befriend him in ways that, you know, he had never really had in a partner and a girlfriend and stuff like that, and vice versa for sure for me. And it wasn't until we got pregnant and miscarried and then got pregnant again with our twins that things started to become confusion. When you share yourself with someone that you're not assigned to, the consequence is always going to be confusion. Having sex outside of marriage, having multiple sex partners because you're going through your whole phase, coming into agreement and alignment with one's flesh when God has specifically given orders to save yourself for marriage, because sex is a privilege under the covenant of marriage for a husband and a wife to share. And then there are so many people who are driven crazy or hate, and hate is a strong word, but truly hate their partners who they were never equally yoked with, who they were never assigned to be with by God. And because you did not take the time to figure that out first and come into that agreement before getting married and then have sex after, there is so much chaos and confusion amongst the world. And I remember having a point of breakdown after breakdown after breakdown after breakdown after finding out Jeremy cheated and conceived a child outside of our relationship. And in the midst of all of the cyber attacks, personal attacks, spiritual attacks, everything under the sun felt like it was coming to crash down on me. And I never understood why at the time. It was always, why me? Why me, God, when I'm a good person? Why must I suffer, God, when I'm only having sex with my man? I'm only involved with the father of my kids. I'm a good person. I'm a great friend. I'm a great daughter. I'm a good this. I'm a good that. All these different things I continue to question. And I remember being at a point where I no longer trusted God. I said, God, you know, if you could literally take a woman like myself who has been chewed up and spit out in every way imaginable. And I'm not saying that I just had such this horrible, monstrous life, because I know there are so many people who've had it way worse. There are so many people who've had it way worse. But for my own sake, for me to look at what I've endured from such a young age and say I've had to battle silently for so long, and then here you are leading me to a man, allowing me to be happy And this pursuit of happiness is fulfilled just for this to happen? Like, this doesn't make any sense to me. This makes absolutely no sense to me. Why would you allow me to conceive twins and people are telling me God is giving you double for your trouble and all these different things after miscarrying a whole baby? Why would you lead me to this point if you knew this was going to happen? If you knew ultimately we were not on one accord, why would you put me in a predicament like this? Why would you put me in a predicament like this? And I never got that answer at that time. I just remember being proposed to the first time. And after all of the things that were ensuing on the internet, in my home, in my heart, in my mind, I remember when I was proposed to, I remember praying so loud but so quiet because I wasn't saying a word. But internally, I was praying to God so loud to say, God, give me an answer. Like, okay, this is finally everything I've been saying I wanted. I'm getting it. I'm becoming a wife soon. Like, all of this was not just for nothing. Like, this is great. And let me know what I should do. And God said, not right now. And I uttered those words back, slow, through tears and through heartache, because I never would have imagined myself saying not right now to something I had yearned for so long. And I'm like, okay, I'm being selfish. I have been begging God to fix this and fix that and make this right because I didn't deserve none of this. I don't deserve this, God. I don't deserve any of what I'm enduring. And then I finally get exactly what I do deserve. And it's not right now. And as much as I didn't want to say those words, I said those words, not right now. And it hurt and it broke my heart and I cried so hard. And we almost couldn't look at each other because it was like, well, we're still together, but now what? Because the next step was marriage and you said not right now, so how do we carry on? And it hurt him deeply. I'll let him talk about his own sentiments with that. It hurt him deeply. And it hurt me to see him hurt. And I remember crying out to God saying, like, what does not right now mean? Like, are you saying not right now? Like, this is not the right time for me. There's another guy. Are you saying not right now with me and him? And Jeremy ended up sending me this really long message shortly after all of those prayers. And within the message, it pretty much had confirmed something I had asked God the day before. So I knew he was telling me not right now with him. And as embarrassed as I was to continue to chug along in this relationship where the world is kicking me while I'm down and getting a great laugh out of my pain, out of my misfortunes, out of his mistake, I knew God was saying, not right now. And not right now ended up lasting not 1, not 2, not 3, 4 years. 4 years. And each year got harder and harder because I just kept hearing God say, not right now. And I'm like, okay, God, now this don't make no sense. None of this is making sense. Okay, we've started therapy. We've done the work. We're internally doing the work. You know, we don't have any of those issues that we were dealing with. We're not dealing with lust in our relationship where there's infidelity on the line. We're not dealing with white lies here and big lies there. We're not dealing with the small little fires that used to just abruptly show up in our dynamic. We're not dealing with any of those things. So what's going on? And then patience continued to grow. And I'm like, is it him? Is it me? Like, is he just in a place where he doesn't want to be rejected anymore? If he tries again, like, what is it? And Jeremy, when he started his journey with God, had started having so many intimate moments with him that I never was a part of, because that was him and God's relationship and that was their time. Jeremy calling me down, and out of nowhere, it was a random time of day, and he just calls me down and he is crying, just crying, telling me how sorry he was. Just everything was just coming out, everything. And mind you, we had already been in therapy for over a year, so I was a little bit in confusion at first, and then I started crying because I'm like, okay, I guess this is a crying moment. Like what's going on? Like something happening internally to him. And I just remember him crying out, telling me how God has now saved him and how God has opened his eyes up to sin. God had opened his eyes up to sin, and that I'm not going to share everything that we discussed in that moment, but ultimately it was along the lines of him not wanting to ever do any actions intentionally to defy his promise with God, which was to love me unconditionally the way that I deserved and do it the right way, which means marriage, which means repenting, which means healing both of our broken hearts. And I'm just so happy. I'm like, God, you did your big one. Yes, finally. Like, yes, we of course had acknowledged in so many instances of our therapy sessions that he had messed up by doing this and all of those different mistakes he had made. Not to say that I was perfect in our relationship, not to say that I never did anything, that he never brought problems that I had to the relationship, but I'm saying as far as the purpose of what this whole underlying tone of this She Speaks is about. And if you haven't caught along, it's about sexual immorality. So in that moment, I'm just thinking like, thank you so much, guys. So I started telling him like, babe, you know, I'm so appreciative of this. Like, I'm so happy that you finally are able to see that you were the problem, and, you know, all those things that you did to hurt me and embarrass me and this, that, and the third, and all these different things I'm just talking about. Like, I'm just so happy that you're coming into agreement with God, because, you know, I've been praying for you and I've been talking to God for us, and, you know, now we can finally be more aligned. Like, now it's starting to make sense. We're finally going to be aligned. I've been praying to God. Remember, we went and I got baptized. Remember that? You was holding my hand that day. Remember, we went out to dinner after that, and, you know, I was going to church and all these different things. And I've always brought up God and my relationship with God and my believing in God and all these different things. And I'm going on and on and on about his sins and his faults as to why we were where we were. And Jeremy said, Keesha, within me growing my relationship with God, I'm gonna need for you to get there too. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, what are you talking about? Like, I already got a relationship with God. Like, me and God go together real bad. How you think he was giving me all those signals to go through your phone and find this out and find that out? Like, what are you talking about? How do you think I was having those dreams and those visions and this and that and all these different things that I'm thinking, like, you know, no, that wasn't God. And most importantly, you know God, but you have no relationship with Jesus. You don't understand the words that he has written down for us to study, learn, understand, and live, breathe, and die by. You are one of those people who like to talk about being a follower of God and show up and post your cute sermons and your cute quotes and seemingly feel like because you have good morale makes you better than somebody else. And I'm like, what? So because you were cheating in our relationship and got another girl pregnant, and I have stuck around and weathered the storm, good, bad, ugly, and sad, no matter what, and have literally been extremely resilient in ensuring that we continue to prosper in this relationship, now you're telling me that I'm equally at fault and I am a sinner as well? Make it make sense. And he started giving me some scriptures and said, did you know that God said this in the Bible? And did you know that God wrote that in the Bible? And do you know what God feels about this in the Bible? And he's just going on and on, putting things in perspective for me to understand. You've been so angry and upset and frustrated for all this time at me for hurting you, when in reality, you set yourself up to be hurt. You desired a man more than you desired a relationship with God. And as hard as it was for me to hear those words from him, I had to sit back and reflect and sit back and think, where did I go wrong? And it wasn't because he was trying to condemn me and point the fingers. He was trying to make me aware of what actions that I have pretty much since the beginning of our relationship been a part of, equally and willingly, that led me astray from God. Not about my relationship, not about cheating, not about any of those things, about me checking my heart temperature to understand, where did I put the balance of God and man? Because there was a level of imbalance for so long in my life. And that's why when you share yourself with someone who is not assigned to you, the consequence is confusion. I had been confused for all this time, begging and pleading to God to please change this man, God. Please take the lust from his heart, God. Please fix these issues within our relationship, God. Please, God, like, I deserve this. I deserve that, God. Like, I'm too good of a person, God. Like, and the biggest mistake I made was not asking God, what did I need to be checking about myself? What did I need to be doing internally to fix my outward situation? And I had a big aha epiphany once I started studying and reading the scripture for myself, watching the sermons, listening to different members of the church who had such a profound voice when it comes to talking about God and Jesus, and realized my sexual immorality got me here. How dare I go and decide to fornicate right after I dip my body in water and spoke out of acknowledging Jesus as my Lord and Savior? Where did they do that at? Although I was not out here being mischievous and sleeping outside of my relationship or creeping or this or that, and realizing like the hierarchy of sins in all parties who are involved in the situation, the only conclusion I can come up with is, if I myself had been accountable for my relationship with God, then there would be no consequences of confusion. And it's not to say that everybody who follows God and knows the word of God will never see consequence, will never see confusion, will never see error, will never see problem, will never see burden, will never see pain, will never see suffering, will never see the fight. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that amongst us on this earth, are demons who were cast out of heaven for not abiding by the order of God and thinking that their pride and their ego was just so superior to God, and have come down here to infiltrate into us, and has easily just rolled the balls of sin into the world, and we are catching them quickly. All of these balls of sin, we are just playing ball, dodgeball, for some people who are trying to stay out of the way, and other people are trying to be the stars of the game. A lot of us, myself included, have a very false reality of what it means to really be a follower of God. And I didn't realize what my own mistakes were until Jeremy was led to God. And although it didn't take 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years when he told me that day, not right now. It was because if I would have said yes to Jeremy, we would have spent the year getting prepared for the wedding, gotten married. Neither one of us would have found God. God spared us. He is so gracious. He is so gracious. He spared us for all of that time because he knew that Jeremy was going to find his way to him in that capacity and then save my soul as well. He knew Jeremy was going to save my soul. I never looked at sin in that way that I had looked at it before. I never practiced my religion in the way. I remember I was getting the tarot readings and a lot of my supporters were telling me, Keesha, that's not of God. I'm like, what are you talking about? I remember when he was cheating, and I remember looking through his phone, finding out certain information and going to downtown and getting some sage and burning it around the house, thinking like this is going to get the demons out, the lust demons out. And hell, I'm a part of the lust too. Because I valued my relationship with my boyfriend more than finding and yearning and dying to my flesh to yearn for a relationship with God. And it led to confusion. It led to a lot. And God silenced me for a period of time in my life. And yes, it hurts. I know a lot of people want to hear me say, it hurt me. People were so confused as to how I could stick around or how I can move on and all these different things. If I can say one thing about strength and resilience, is that you are nothing without God. There is no amount of resilience that I have from self, or I can give credit from self. The only way that I was able to keep going day in and day out is because God told me to. He genuinely was telling me to. Was I perplexed? Yes. Did I like my circumstances? No. Did I like how things were going? Like I said, to have to endure hard times is one thing. To have the opinions of thousands of people who are using your pain for their financial gain, for their entertainment. People are so entertained off of, to this day, I'm constantly reminded of him cheating on me and getting someone pregnant. That was 5 years ago. We don't have those type of problems. I have a man who has found God and who loves me. And if God can give us grace, everything that we do, and this is not about me asking anyone. This is not specific to ask anybody to give Jeremy grace, me grace, any of that. I don't need to do that at this point in my life. What I'm saying is putting things in perspective for people who just don't get it. Who just don't get that this is the time now to save yourself. Because I would rather be someone's butt end of the joke temporarily on earth than to meet God and him say, depart from me, you worker of iniquity. I never knew you. You never knew me. Because I didn't take my time to realize that being purpose driven in the eyes of God surpasses on a whole nother level of proving the world wrong. Being this person on the internet, being this tough exterior person on the internet, talking down on people, gossiping, laughing at other people. It is such a demonic world that we live in. And I saw firsthand how many evil people that roam this earth. I never, call me naive if you want, I didn't know it was like this. I didn't know it was like this until I was on my hands and knees crying out, begging God to forgive those people. I didn't know it was like this. I had no earthly idea that demons were walking this earth in this form of capacity. But when you tamper with sin and you don't live your life righteously, especially when you say, hey, I believe in God, I follow God, and your life does not reflect that at all. It doesn't reflect that at all. I'm glad I was able to get the grace of God to learn before it was too late. I'm very happy that Jeremy was able to be turned to God in a way that literally saved his life. And I'm not saying we're perfect. I'm not saying any of those things, because I started this video off by saying that I'm not on this high horse, this pedestal. My relationship is not on this high horse. And y'all, let me be clear. Let me be 100% transparent with y'all. I'm not saying that anyone should strive to try to be like my relationship and say, oh my gosh, they're so relationship goals. I know a lot of people feel the latter anyways, because they're like, I could never. This is not a video to convince anyone to do anything. My purpose is bigger than that. Personally, I don't really even believe in the whole relationship goals aspect. I don't look at anyone and say their relationship goals, because I know firsthand things are not always what they seem to be. Social media can be misconstrued to make it look like a lot of things. And just because, unfortunately, there was a child out of Jeremy's infidelity that came, does not mean some of your favorite people have not had the same thing. And either A, the child was miscarried, unfortunately. B, people do pay pretty pennies for their mistakes or bad choices or anything like that to go away. And by that I mean abortion. So many other things. And even if someone doesn't get pregnant from the act of sex, I know so many people who people look at and love, and I personally have witnessed firsthand infidelity in those relationships. And this is not to put my relationship on the same playing field and say like everybody's just as bad as us. And I pray that people have peace and solace in their relationships. I pray that they're being treated and valued and loved on, and they don't have to go through these type of trials and tribulations to feel and get a sense of valued love and a sense of unconditional love. Yes, I have those things now. I am also 100% happy that I am in a marriage that is purpose driven, and it is based off of love and not off of lust. And that was the goal anyway. So unfortunately, the dating had a lot of ups and downs and hiccups and, you know, unfortunate things. But the marriage itself, the covenant that is being formed under God, is sacred and is to be valued. And that is part of the reason why I'm not so quick to get on social media and talk about it. I'm not so quick to get on social media and brag and boast about something that truly means so much to me, because we did so much work to get here. And all I know is coming into agreement with sin can lead you down to a very dark place. And if anyone takes any little nuggets from this video, I want you to understand that check your heart temperature. You have to be honest and real with thyself about the issues and the sins and the problems that is wrong with our own hearts before looking at other people's and being so quick to cast stones and point fingers and laugh and all of these other things that people love to do, because it seems easy to do that. It seems easier. But the way God sits and looks down, unfortunately, everything is equal. Everything is equal. No sin is greater than others. As much as I would love to say, God, well, you need to put this. Well, except for blasphemy. But you all know what I'm saying. And me getting to a point where I realized that I could no longer be mad at my personal relationship situation before we got to where we are now. I'm reflecting. I'm really reflecting at this moment, y'all. So don't get it misconstrued. But at the time when I was very upset and hell bent on being the only righteous one in the situation, I realized and I understood what my faults were. I understood what my problems were. And after that, nothing mattered. I'm falling short of God's glory. Nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. Unfortunately, it just does not. I don't care how bad I was cheated on. I don't care what people got on the internet and said, what people did, how many times people talked about my kids. Nothing mattered until I realized I fell short of God's glory too. And it just looked a little different. And the walk to recovery and the walk to redemption is hard, y'all. At the beginning of this year, I remember being so heavily convicted of my sins, heavily disgusted with myself. Like, oh my gosh, like I've been doing it all wrong. Like, this is why all these things are happening. If I wouldn't have done this, if I wouldn't have done that, and maybe I'm being cursed because of me living in sin for all those years, and not realizing that me thinking God was coming to me in my dreams to reveal how great sex would be with a man, and this is my first time really feeling those sensations that made me feel like a woman. And it really was because I cried out so much to feel some sense of belonging that God was not the only one listening. Sometimes we get what we want not because God gave it to us. That's why you have to be careful and very particular with discernment. You have to be able, and you have to know your Bible. You have to know your word. Because had I known my Bible, had I known my word the way that I thought I did, in a sense, because I knew I wasn't reading the Bible, so I knew in essence I didn't know it. But as much as I thought like I love God and God loves me, and I'm not out here just intentionally harming and doing all these other things that everybody else is doing, and putting myself on this pedestal, so to speak, I would have known that those were sex demons at that time. I wouldn't have come into agreement and said, yes, this was my sign from God. Like, do you realize how crazy that is to me now? Like, wow, I literally came in agreement, was like, yes, this is God's work. This is God showing me this, and then went on to continue to fornicate. And yes, I had 3 beautiful daughters who came from that. 3 beautiful daughters who were made in love. And I can't really feel bad, so to speak, for having them, but I do feel conviction that it was not in the way that God wanted me to. And God makes no mistake, so he put them here for a reason. And the way that he wanted them to be put here ultimately led me to my salvation. And as hard of a lesson it was, and as painful as that journey was for me, that's just my ultimate reality. Everybody's journey is different. No one's journey looks the same at all. And I don't want this to be misconstrued to say like, well, now since Keesha Kaylee said this on her She Speaks episode, this could also be for me. Some of us do need to check out of these relationships. Some of us do need to choose ourselves. Some of us just need to choose God, period. Some of us just need to choose God, period. This isn't a cue for you to say in action for your own life and continue to accept certain things or still live in false realities. That's not what I'm saying. Everyone, this is a unicorn situation what has happened between me and my husband. And I understand that. And it's not a flex or a brag because this is not ideal. I would not have chosen this order of operations for any one of my daughters. None at all. And I'm not afraid to admit that. What I'm saying is, I've already done the work and I've already had to do the healing. So now I can put the message out that God wants me to put out so other people can also learn from that. Maybe this should be your cue to say, you know what, I have not been living the right way. Maybe I should too check in with God to see what he really wants of me. If you lead me, if you lead me, if you lead me, I'll go. If you lead me, I'll go. Crying out to God so many nights, singing that song. Yes, by Shekinah Glories and Ministries. If you lead me, I'll go. And some of us don't know where to go. It's like the blind leading the blind. It's like the blind leading the blind. If you really thought back to the shit show that ensued on the internet of people, whew, y'all, this gonna make some of y'all mad. People really sat up there on their high horses to try to break me down for being cheated on and lied to and hurt by other people. To make me feel like I was unworthy of love. To make me feel like I was a bad mother. People did not care if my life got flipped, turned upside down, inside out.
So they come and attack him in the presence of people. This is a public dispute that's about to happen. This is no difference than trolls who creep up on people's pages looking for an audience in the comments. You don't really have anything of value to add to the conversation. You just want to stick in your ignorance to make it palpable for everybody else in the comments to think that you're a theologian. Right? So here,
the trolls will creep, regardless if you're on a platform or not. The trolls will creep, and they will try to get into the crevices of your life and the crevices of your heart and the weaknesses of the things that they know that they could say or do to hurt you and attack you, to keep you distracted from the will of God, to keep you losing. Because a real person of God, a real person would have used their platform during that time to not speak out, to condemn me, to put me down as someone who genuinely and honestly didn't do anything to any party. But they would have used that opportunity to pour spiritually into a situation that was so built with anguish and dysfunction and drama and lies and bullshit. They would have used that opportunity to speak out into the world to show people what the love of God looks like. They would have shown all parties what the grace and the love of God looks like. They would have poured out into the masses, to try to pick up another fallen sister of Christ, brother of Christ, sisters of Christ, brother of Christ, to try to bring some form of unity. But that's not what happened. People are down here on this earth dancing with the devil day in and day out. And I had my fair dances. And now that I've exited stage left, my eyes are so clear into the evils of the world. I can't dance with the devil no more. I have to be cognizant of my actions. I can't dance with the devil anymore. I have to be cognizant of my heart. Because you can say and do and pretend all you want, but if you don't check your heart temperature, God will do it. God will do it. Whether it's in this lifetime or when you meet him, God will do it. And he will remind you. He will remind you with no problems doing it. He will remind you of what that looks like. What that form of grace looks like. People are so quick to judge others and hurt others. That is such a sense of normalcy now for the world. It's a sense of normalcy. People get a kick out of it. Like, I never really understood the mental of a demented person because I've never been there to that level of being so far away from God. But as I've walked back and pleaded with him and got baptized and begged him and gave myself to him and fasted and prayed and cried out in a room with a closed door by myself in my Bible, reading my Bible, praying over myself, praying over my family, praying over my sins of my past, to ask for forgiveness and be a better person. Try at least. Try at least. God is not asking you to show up perfect. God is not saying that you won't make a mistake. God is not saying you won't waver. He still wants you to walk with him, to you to choose to walk with him. Me and Jeremy made an executive decision at the beginning of this year to go full cold celibate. I know a lot of people are like, what? You already got 3 kids. That's the number one thing I heard in response to we were going to go celibate. You already got 3 kids. You already got 3 kids. You already got 3 kids. And I'm like, you should be encouraging this. You should be saying, good job. Not continue to live in sin since you've been doing it and you got 3 kids already. People who really have aligned themselves with God, and there's no shade to nobody who said that if you're watching this, but it should be more of us lifting each other up to become more like Christ, to die to our flesh. More people should have been saying, yes, thank you. You're dying to your flesh. This is so good for you guys. And we didn't need the amen of the church, so to speak, for us to continue this choice. We did it for ourselves. We did it for us to die to our flesh seriously. I mean, we had so many. When you lay down with someone, you create soul ties. We had to get rid of those soul ties out of our life. Now, granted, he had an astronomical amount of soul ties than I ever did. I only had been with one other guy prior to him. But the point is, regardless of how many I actually physically was in the room with, I had to receive all of the many soul ties that he created, regardless of what time of his life those things took place. All of those times that he laid down with someone that God did not create for him, the consequence was confusion. And all of the trauma that I'm going to allow him to speak on his own platform whenever his own time is right, or even when we do speak, if he wants to bring those things up, the trauma that he has endured. Oh my gosh, the trauma. And the response from that trauma was lust. Some people trauma response in many different ways. I have a different way of my trauma responses. Everybody, when you think about when you've dealt with the lowest of the low of your life, all the most traumatic things in your life, we all have our own versions of trauma responses. And for his, it was extreme lust. That was the only way he felt like he could really deal with all of the many things that he dealt with. And he was making mistakes by not going to God and seeking God And so when I circle back to that conversation of him calling me downstairs to talk to me about him finally being told and led by God of all those things of his past and all those sins of his past, and God saying all those ways you used to think were wrong, and if you would have sought me out long time ago, I could have helped you through this. You only needed me. You didn't need multiple other women. You didn't need alcohol. You didn't need this. You didn't need that. You only needed me. You were chasing the wrong things and created a disaster of your life for the most part. Like, look at this. Look at this mess. Look at this huge mess. Look at all the people who are hurt and all the different things that have now happened. But I give you grace, just like I give everybody else. And if you turn your life to me right now, you will see a change happen that only God himself could have done for you. That's how you'll know this is real. And the changes I have seen in him, sends chills down my spine. I am so grateful for those changes. I am so grateful for the work that has been done. We're so young. We're so young. People like him don't change every day. I was afraid for so long, like, oh my gosh, like, I was afraid for so long. Like, what the hell am I gonna do? Like, this can't be it. It started off on such a high. And yes, we had so many right reasons, but we also had so many wrong. And God blessed us in the midst of that made us feel like he was aiding us in our sin. Because when you get the new job or all the money and the new car and blah blah this and blah blah that, you're thinking, okay, I'm doing good, so of course God is blessing me. These are God's blessings. Sometimes we're not getting stuff because God is blessing us. That's just life. That's just life. You get things because it's life. Yes, a lot of things are because of God. You give glory to God. But I don't want people to get confused with a lot of things. God sometimes set things up in a certain type of way. Yeah, he may give something to you at that time, but he set it up for you because there's an ultimate goal or purpose that is going to be the consequence, whether good or bad, of that blessing, so to speak. Okay. You wanted this baby, I'm giving you double. Now let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. And when we fasted and when we cried out to him, when we both got baptized again and decided, like, we have to do the ultimate sacrifice to God. Like, we have to let him know how serious we are because this is before we even got engaged. We made this choice. Well, he already knew he was going to propose. So I kind of know now that he was setting these things up because he knew ultimately I was the woman he wanted to spend the rest of his life with. And there was a way that he had to lead us as a whole to heaven. That's the biggest ultimate purpose. So me unknowingly just knowing that this just looks exactly what I want it to look like. A man who is doing right by me, doing right by my family, and loving God. What else can a girl ask for? What else can a girl ask for? There were so many ways about myself, so many ways I used to think about certain things that had to change when I chose God. When my body was dipped in that water. And I'm not saying it's easy. We definitely can talk on and on about some of the things that I've seriously struggled with. One of which, not so much sex, but sexual immorality did creep its way back into our life during celibacy. And I'm not afraid to admit it. I know a lot of people had questions. Almost every person who knew us in real life personally would say, I thought you were celibate when they found out we were pregnant with baby Nugget. And we knew to do our celibacy journey what that sacrifice would look like. And we knew it wouldn't be easy, and we knew in a form of a cop-out way that the best way to make sure, because by the point we started the celibacy journey, we were engaged by the next month. And then I almost lost myself the night I got that ring. But I'm not gonna lie to y'all, I'm gonna be very transparent. When I got that ring that night, I went home and I lost myself. And I was like, let me just show him how grateful I am that the time is now. And we had only been celibate for 1 month at that point, a little over a month. And I was like, I had forgotten everything that we had just worked so hard past. And Jeremy looked at me and he said, you know, babe, as much as I would love to do this right now, our purpose is bigger than this. And it means so much to me for you to be my wife. And I don't want us to start off on the wrong foot because of an engagement. So I don't want you to wake up tomorrow in regret and pain and hurt, and I led you to that. Because God says if you lead your brother or sister to sin, He's not happy with you. And me knowing that Jeremy had just went through years of doing the work, because it's not like he ever woke up and just was like, well, he's a man, so don't take everything I'm saying literally. He loves women in general from being a man by nature. But it's never in our relationship where he woke up and thought I wasn't enough. Never. It was just that lust got to him and blinded him way more than his love for me did. And he has to talk about that journey with you guys. I know a lot of pieces about it, but I think he would be the best person to give his testimony about that, because it's really beautiful to hear someone be transparent in their walk with Christ, regardless of what other people's comfort levels of hearing people's truth are. Because no matter how many times people tell the truth, some people just won't never believe it, or somebody has already used a blip of your life or a mistake of your life and has casted you as just this awful person and just holds so much malice in their heart from it. But if you were to truly open your heart to hear, you know, that story, I know it will for sure be extremely relatable to a lot of men, for one, but helpful to a lot of women, for two. But overall, for people who are doing the work with Christ, be such a beautiful testimony to hear. A beautiful testimony to hear. And after that night, I felt happy when we woke up, because I said, God, this is the time. You told me not right now, and the time has finally come. I was just so relieved and just so grateful that it turned out like this. I couldn't have asked for a better outcome than the way that it turned out. And sometimes you're rebuilding your relationship with Christ is not an overnight thing anyways. God said, I'm gonna need some time with y'all. I'm gonna need some time with y'all. Y'all been doing some dibbling and dabbling in sin and all this years of trauma and all these different things. And I'm gonna need some time with y'all. So give me y'all's undivided attention in the meantime. And then y'all will be able to come together and have my true ultimate blessing later. So I was so grateful, and we did great. Month 1, celibate. Month 2, we even separated rooms. I said, just to even make sure, because baby, when we get under them covers, my man loves to touch on me. But anyways, month 2, great job. Month 3, and on and on and on. And one night comes, and typically once the celibacy journey happened, our youngest daughter realized, like, daddy not in the bed, so I'm about to come in the bed. So she had started back coming in the room every night. And one particular night, I had put her to bed upstairs, and one thing led to another. Jeremy came into the room and realized, like, oh, our youngest isn't in here. Let me just lay down for a few. And we began talking, and you know, we had not been in that bedroom setting intimately like that in such a long time. I felt like this is foreign, but this feels good. Like he's my fiance and soon to be husband, and we're just talking about our plans of life and all these beautiful things. And next thing you know, one thing led to another, and we fell back into sin. And immediately after, we repented and told ourselves, like, we messed up. Like, at this point, we had not been tracking any ovulation because we're celibate. We're sleeping in separate rooms. There's no reason to keep up with that. And we just were careless. And, you know, we prayed together. I prayed separately. I felt so heavy in my conviction that next day. And the only thing that just kept being my saving grace was the fact that I said, you know, this is going to be my husband. 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 God has literally brought us such a long way. God is going to see us through this. This is going to be my husband. People can make mistakes. I remember even watching Pastor Philip Mitchell Anthony, and he talked about like how when him and his wife got engaged, they also were celibate. And it kind of made me feel like, whew, okay, this is a sigh of relief. Look how much he's impacting us. But still, my sin was in my hands, so I still felt that level of conviction. And after realizing that that night led to a beautiful blessing, we decided that the new ultimate sacrifice was to prove to God that the work that we had been doing was not of the world. It was not because we wanted to stand up before our friends and family and rejoice at this beautiful big wedding that we've spent thousands of dollars investing in and taking all this time to show the world, like, look, here we are now. We've made it. Look at this, look at that. Let's eat this nice hors d'oeuvre and have this beautiful meal, and let's cut the cake and have these beautiful pictures. Like, weddings are beautiful. I am one that believes still in the beauty of a marriage, and even if it costs some money, I do love that. I am swept off my feet and swimming away somewhere far when I think about the essence of a beautiful wedding. But I knew when we sat down and we discussed that our biggest purpose of building this covenant and doing this work for all of this time was bigger than having the world witness this beautiful ceremony and all the money that we put into this ceremony. That we had to show and prove to God that we were choosing Him at that very time above all other things. And we got married. And it has definitely been a beautiful choice that we've made. And I don't want to spend too much time talking about that because, like I said, I personally myself, I'm just not at this point of being an influencer or a content creator or being on YouTube, social media, just so quick to kind of talk about things without using that discernment now. And not that it's a bad thing, but this is something that's sacred and should be cherished and valued. And we have to cherish and value each other as well. We have to be each other's number one above all outside of God. And doing that it requires so much of you. It requires so much of you to put another human being above all other things outside of God, no matter what. Your family, your friends, your kids, everything. You have to put each other first. That takes a level of work. No man come in between the covenant that you form between a man and a woman with God. So no, we're not trying to do this for the world for all the wrong reasons. Yes, we're still going to have our big wedding and celebrate when that time comes. That still really means a lot to the both of us. But right now it's time to do so much work, the being with one another and learning these things. We all have to evolve as people. And I just hope when people listen to this message, there's a sense of evolution that starts to unravel. There's a sense of growth, and there's a sense of alertness that you have to run fast and seek the word. Act fast, move fast. Don't worry about what everybody else's relationships look like. What happened between me and mine does not affect you in any capacity. Unless you're doing something sinful like hurting us, and then God has to bring that to your attention on your judgment day. But as far as the sins of our past, the choices we've personally made, God is not bringing that to your front door when you get judged. We can't spend our time focusing on what other people got going on if we're not watering our own grass. If we're not being attentive and intentional about fostering a relationship with our Father, we're going to learn the hard way. So no matter what sense of pedestal you may feel like you're on, like how I sense for myself, because my sins did not look like others, and I was not out here with my sins hurting other people. I'm thinking because I'm not doing those things means that God is not going to be looking at me in a way that reflects him. And he's like, you got another thing coming. If you think that your actions are godlike, if you think that your actions are godlike, you got another thing coming. You don't even read the Bible. You don't even understand me. You don't know anything of me. You don't know my desires for what I want of the world, the order of which that should be. You have no understanding whatsoever. You just have what you want and what you think. You didn't create this world. You didn't sit down and decide what Adam and Eve were going to do when they got here, and the consequences that happened after they decided to be led astray. You're no better than anybody else. You all belong to me. And when I gave my only son to save your soul, the least you can do is be saved. The least you can do is be saved. So I'm going to leave you guys with this. Go and get saved. Be saved and be intentional with your walks. And like I said, it's not about being perfect. It's not about never falling short again. It's about at least you are knowing of your convictions. Because I'd rather do something and know I feel that conviction and be able to right my wrongs immediately and continue to move in my walk with Christ than to have lived a long life coasting on the sleeve of Jesus Christ just to get to Jesus and him tell you, depart from me, you worker of iniquity. The pleasures of the world feel great. The sins of the world, most or some, not most, but some of them feel great. They make you feel good to lie and sit up and gossip with your friends. It feels great to have sex. It feels great to drink and go out and club and these different things. All the plethora of sins I can go down the list of. It feels great. But you have to die to your flesh and do it every day. You have to continue to die day in and day out. I'm still doing it. We're in this together. We're in this together. I promise you, I'm still doing it. There's a lot of things that I have had to work very hard with when it comes to this new woman of Christ that I want to be. But I still have to make that effort every day. Because the moment I wake up here perfect, I don't need God. He can go ahead and call me home. The way when I wake up and I don't have no issues abiding by every part of the Bible, doing everything God wants me to do, like I'm just walking around here without sin, God can go ahead and call me home. He don't need me to be on this earth continuing to testify. He doesn't need me to continue to pour out and let people know the struggles that can still happen within while you're still on this pursuit of a godly life. And I'm just ultimately so happy that I listened to him in the back of my head. all those years ago when he said, not right now. Because Lord knows what would have happened if I would have just started listening to everybody else around me. Regardless of some people's intentions were just like, we just don't want to see you hurt, or this, that, and the third. I had to do what was best for me. And ultimately, God wasn't trying to get me together and keep me put to prove to the world something about a man. God was trying to get me right so I could be able to start showing up for him. All of this was for God's glory. It wasn't about my glory, my relationship's glory. None of those things mattered. None of them. It's because he knew one day I was going to be sitting down making this video, pouring out to thousands of people watching this so that they can realize a piece of my story. Just a piece of my story. And make a change within. To make a change within. That's the only thing that matters. My happiness is when I please God. And I want to be able to save or at least help as many people as I possibly can. Because the feeling that I go to sleep with now at night is beautiful. I feel safe within my home. I feel safe in my marriage. I feel safe with my kids. And I feel safe that if I know I don't wake up the next day, then my soul is with God. And I know for a fact that so many of you guys will continue to help foster this in different ways that y'all probably couldn't even imagine. By pouring into me, encouraging me, and when the world continues to try to beat me down over the mistakes of my past, my husband's past, or anything else, y'all aren't just coming to my defense in the comments or all those different things, which I love so much. Sometimes I don't even see it until days later or weeks later because I get so much stuff on all my platforms. But to pray out for me, to call out to Jesus when you see certain things and say, you know, she's under attack because she's speaking out against God. She's under attack because she's speaking out for God. She's trying to convince so many people to turn their lives to God, and God, the enemy does not like that. They don't like the covenant of marriage. They don't like that. I'm not gonna lie, you guys. It's hard as hell sometimes to just give grace and forgiveness and mercy when people have wronged you and hurt you. And those things look different for everybody. But you'll feel that blessing when you know ultimately why you're doing it. And I appreciate each and every one of you guys for watching this video. And I will see you guys in the next She Speaks. Bye.